Welcome back to Inside the Ring. We are here with the man of the hour and maybe the man of the last dozen years in boxing in retrospect. He just beat Canelo Alvarez as he promised he would. He's still undefeated. Now, 4-weight division, Ring Magazine champion, joining only Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao in the history of boxing as a real 4-weight division champion. And maybe just Pacquiao. We'll talk about that later. The great Terence Bud Crawford. Bud, I know you're tired. Thank you for joining us right now.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Bud, you are at a pinnacle now that most people only ever dream of. What does it feel like? All those years where, well, he's under the radar, no one wants to fight him, he's not going to be marketable enough, all that stuff, and now you are at the very apex of sport. What are you feeling right now?
Well, to be honest, I don't feel anything because, you know, when it's meant for it to happen like that, you know, it just happened organically. You know, I know where I was meant to be. I know my place in the sport where I was, you know, destined to be at. So I just take it in stride.
Yeah, do you guys want to talk to Bud? I mean, I'm happy to have a conversation with him.
Don't let I'll get going. Go ahead. Real quick, I want to say congrats, Bud. The whole culture's behind you. When I seen you walking in, the first thing I said to you, Bud, the belt is in this case. Go get it. You looked at me and said, I'm going to go get it. So congratulations on that. I just want to say how big this moment is for you, bro. 3-time undisputed champ. I mean, the last time is Henry Armstrong with 1930-something. We couldn't drink at the same water fountain. It was that long ago.
Right.
So how big does that really feel, though? Because that's big. I know you're saying it's normal, but that's big, bro. How does it truly feel, though? Because you're the king of this joint right now.
To be honest, you know, it feels great. But at the same time, you know, that's the honest to God truth. Like, you know, like I'm not jumping around, jumping for joy. I'm just like, maybe it ain't set in yet. You know, I'm just like, yeah, I told everybody, you know, what was going to happen. And it happened just like I said it would.
Cop, you want to ask him the same question to see if you get it, or can we move on now?
Yeah, look, Bud,
That's huge,
look,
bro.
Bud, when you said you were going to beat him, I should have listened. That was the first time and the last time I picked against you. And you were great. But the thing that surprised and impressed me the most, Bud, is how well you took Canelo's punches. I mean, that was your first fight at 68. You hadn't even fought at 160. And I saw you say at the post-fight press conference that even Mean Machine hits harder than this guy. When did you know in the fight that you could take his shots pretty well?
Well, you know, the first shot that he hit me with, you know, Canelo, he punched hard, you know, but I think, you know, he couldn't land the shots that he wanted to land on me, and that was frustrating him. You know, if you watch the fight, he only landed a few, like, telling shots, like a couple of straight rights, you know, like a straight right to the body. But everything else was, like, blocked or parried or he missed. You know, when I say Mean Machine hit harder than him, I could say Mean Machine caught me with more cleaner punches that, you know, I felt more than Canelo. And we fight with 8 ounces instead of 10 ounces as well.
Right, of course. That makes a difference.
Yeah, right.
Bud, the fight was tied on the judges' scorecards going into the 11th round. Were you aware that you had to close the show big to leave no doubt? Because even Canelo at the end was acknowledging defeat. But had those last two rounds been close, maybe we're not talking about the fight the same way we are right now, right? Were you aware that you had to close it?
Of course. You know, my corner, you know, going into the championship rounds, they just kept yelling at me, you got to close the show. You got to win the championship rounds because they're not going to give it to you. You got to win the championship rounds because it was one round where, you know, I dominated in the scorecards. They gave it to Canelo, and that just changed the whole mentality of the fight. You know, they were just like, all right, you know, you got to go out there and win these rounds. You got to go out there and win these rounds.
Okay, Bud, check this out. I know, like, Shady brought up Henry Armstrong, undisputed. All that. I don't care about all the... I'm talking about who's the real champ of every division. The lineal, the guy who unifies, whatever, the real champ. In the history of boxing, Henry Armstrong did it in 3 divisions. They say Floyd did it in 4, but he had a weight stipulation where Canelo couldn't weigh in as a full junior middleweight. I don't count that. That's not a junior middleweight. That's 3 for Floyd. Manny Pacquiao did 4. Terence Crawford has done 4. I heard you after the fight say you're thinking about middleweight. Because if you waited for those dudes to unify or they set up some tournament and you won the middleweight Ring Magazine champion, you would be the first real 5-division champion in the history of boxing. Is that on your mind?
There's really nothing on my mind right now. You know, like I said, I'm resting up. I ain't talked to my team yet, you know, and I'm just enjoying the victory and, you know, my hard work and everything that I put in the sport.
So why'd you tell him at the desk after the fight you're thinking about middleweight? I heard that. You act like we didn't all see that.
They asked me, you know what I mean, a question. I told them, I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll go down to 160. You know,
Gotcha.
I said, I don't know. Maybe, you know, it's just thought. It's not a fact yet. If I do it, then it'll be a fact. Right now, it's just a thought.
Yeah, and Bud, look, I've known you a long time, right? I think I met you in 2012 when we did that first interview. What I'm impressed by is you did everything your way. You heard people say that you're not going to be a big star, that you don't have this, you don't have that. Top Rank, in my opinion, never pushed you this way. And now we see you headlining over 70,000 people in attendance. Crazy atmosphere there on Netflix. Why were you so emotional afterward? Is it that you just realized everything that you achieved, the moment just hit you then?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's just, you know, the history, you know, behind the sport is just everything that, you know, I trained for my whole life. It all was, you know, coming out that one night. That was all paying off. You know, you have a lot of people that, you know, adopted this narrative that Terence Crawford can't sell, Terence Crawford is not marketable, you know, and they push the narrative to the public, and that's all people write about. Oh, Terence Crawford can't do this, Terence Crawford can't do that. But anyone in Terence Crawford fights, you see a sold-out crowd, you know, but they wasn't talking about that. They was talking about how, you know, marketable I'm not. You know, and that kind of was hurting my career because, you know, a lot of people was looking at me and said, oh, yeah, they said he's not marketable. Or they said he's not, you know, don't have a personality, things like that, because I didn't want to do things their way. I didn't want to put on a show. I didn't want to disrespect my opponents when they wasn't disrespecting me. Right. I wasn't, you know, I'm not a guy that, you know, wear jewelry, for no reason, you know. Just the things that I didn't want to do that they wanted me to do, you know. They go out there and say, oh, well, they lost money on me, you know. It's just crazy though to see me headline, you know, not one of the largest attending fight in American history. In American history. Canelo fought so many great fighters before me. And a lot of people, you know, they say, oh, well, Canelo's driving this fight. Canelo's driving this fight. But when you look at it, you see Errol Spence, his largest attendance, his highest paycheck was against Terence Crawford. But they say, oh, well, Errol Spence did this. When you see Canelo Alvarez, his highest paycheck, his largest attendance, you know, was against Terence Crawford, you know, and a lot of people, they don't give me no credit. They just, you know, try to demise who Terence Crawford is and give the other fighter all the credit. When, you know, it's 2 fighters, it takes 2 fighters to tango. You know, we both made this fight happen, you know, and history was made, you know, on both ends, you know, because without Canelo, there wouldn't be no history-making fight. Without Terence Crawford, there wouldn't be no history-making fight. So you got to give both of the fighters credit, you know, for the magnitude of the fight. And as well, you got to give Turkey Al-Sheikh, Riyadh Season, Netflix, because it's a whole team of effort that everybody put in to make the event as big as it was.
Terence "Bud" Crawford, you did it your way. You never compromised who you are. And now you sit here with it's going to be, as I said, easily the most watched fight since Ali Spinks 47 years ago. The biggest attendance in American in United States history for an indoor boxing match for sure. And more than that, Bud, this generation of fans, you're not going to be able to tell them anything about Terence Crawford. Years from now, some other fighter's going to come around and they're going to be like, man, I don't want to hear it. Bud would have beaten that guy. You are this generation's boxing icon. We appreciate you coming on early in the morning for you after a fight like that on a Saturday here on a Monday morning. Thank you very much, Bud. Congratulations.
All I ask, Bud, can I get an invite to the parade?
Man, everybody invited. Everybody invited.
Okay, because we there, it's a party, dog. Okay.
Thank you, champ.
you.
Congrats.
Thanks,
Still to